I got to tell you something. It's truly stunning to me. Truly stunning to me. This story. So Politico ran a story today titled, "Did someone plant a story tying Paul Manafort to Julian Assange?" Okay. So did someone plant a story tying Paul Manafort to Julian Assange? And before I read the story, we should point out that literally 2 days later, The Guardian's report that says Paul Manafort and Julian Assange met in 2016, right when Paul Manafort joined the Trump campaign. Literally, no one has verified, no other outlet has independently confirmed the Guardian's story. CNN, NBC, New York Times, Washington Post, they're trying to confirm it, but they have not been able to confirm it, which, aside from WikiLeaks' strong denial, challenging the Guardian to a $1 million duel, saying, if you could prove that these meetings happened, we'll give you $1 million. That's from WikiLeaks. Right now, there's basically a story up alleging this major bombshell meeting with one high-level anonymous source and no way to confirm it. And the Guardian doesn't even get into. They don't provide evidence. Here we go. A bombshell report in The Guardian on Tuesday claims Paul Manafort, President Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, met directly with Julian Assange, the head of WikiLeaks, several times in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. If true, the ramifications are immense. It means the guy running Trump's campaign met directly with the head of the organization that served as a tool of Russia's intelligence services, distributing stolen Democratic emails in an effort to influence the U.S. presidential election. It could be the proverbial smoking gun that shows Trump's campaign knew it was receiving help from Russian intelligence services and perhaps even aided the operation. Luke Harding and Dan Collins, the reporters behind the Guardian story, do not name their sources, although they claim to have multiple, and they write that they have seen an internal document from Ecuador's intelligence service listing Paul Manafort as a visitor to the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Manafort, for his part, has called the Guardian's report totally false and deliberately libelous. And White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, "Certainly, I remain confident in the White House's assertion that the president was involved in no wrongdoing, was not involved in any collusion." While the immediate reaction to the story was a collective, "Wow!" it is fair to take a step back and remain wary. Rather than being the bombshell smoking gun that directly connects the Trump campaign to WikiLeaks, perhaps the report is something else entirely, a disinformation campaign. Is it possible someone planted this story as a means to discredit the journalists? Oh boy. Oh boy. A number of parties in the Trump-Russia circus have an interest in discrediting the media. Russian President Vladimir Putin has solidified his power in Russia by systematically quashing the free press and controlling the message through friendly media outlets, including the likes of RT and Sputnik. Trump, too, has consistently shouted fake news at any story he doesn't like, and has made it a theme of late to refer to the media as the enemy of the people, a term that has been used by dictators throughout time, including to devastating effect by Joseph Stalin. Harding is likely a major target for anyone wrapped up in Russia's intelligence operation against the West's democratic institutions. He has written a book about the Trump campaign's ties to Russia, titled Collusion, as well as numerous articles related to the case, including about the Steele dossier, Russia's plans to help rescue Assange from London and spirit him away to Moscow. So, I'm going to get to the part. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. They must have removed it. So what was so amazing about this is they had in their story saying that Glenn Greenwald worked with WikiLeaks on the Edward Snowden story. That Edward Snowden story that released, secret classified cables exposing the NSA. They said that right here, the correction says an earlier version of the story incorrectly stated that Glenn Greenwald worked with WikiLeaks to distribute the documents stolen by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. WikiLeaks did not play a role in releasing the Snowden documents, though a WikiLeaks staffer did help Snowden get to Russia. That line has been removed. Holy shit. Well, that's quite... So basically... Oh, I left out the best part. Excuse me, I left out the best part. Alex Finley, the author of this story, Alex Finley, CIA officer, writing under a pen name. Wow. Yeah, you got to give it to Politico. I got to give it to Politico. I guess now Politico, instead of just regurgitating what the CIA tells them, they're now just handing over their paper. They're handing over their website to the CIA to basically write conspiracy theory stories that a major Guardian fuck up, that literally 2 days later, there is nobody that can verify this meeting took place between Julian Assange and Paul Manafort. What should be a major journalistic scandal that has the Guardian, frankly, in deep doo-doo. And hey, we all make mistakes as journalists. I've made plenty of mistakes as journalists. Some are small and some are big. But I've never made a mistake where I alleged that a president's campaign manager met with WikiLeaks in an embassy. That's not just a mistake. That's a fucking heart attack type of mistake. So instead of Politico being like, so what's the deal with the Guardian story? There's no verification of this. No outlet can actually verify this. No outlet can find any proof of this. Hell, the Washington Times, which is a conservative outlet, it's gotten so bad that conservative outlets are the ones doing the reporting. Paul Manafort's passports don't show he entered London in all the years claimed by Guardian newspaper when it said he met secretly with Julian Assange. The Guardian said he met with Assange in London in 2013, 2015, and 2016. A review of Manafort's 2 passports showed he entered Heathrow Airport since 2008 on 2 occasions, in 2012 and on another time where the customs stamp year is blurred. It appears to be either 2010 or 2016. So for at least 2013 and 2015, Paul Manafort didn't go to Heathrow Airport unless they flew him in via drone to see Julian Assange. I mean, I guess that's possible. Could have flown him in via drone and snuck in the back of the embassy without anyone seeing, in the most surveilled embassy probably in the world right now. It's possible. Anything's possible. Glenn Greenwald had something to say about this because the original story incorrectly somehow tried to like tie Glenn Greenwald to this conspiracy theory that this Guardian story, right? The Politico literally had Politico. Let's get this straight. Politico literally had a former CIA agent writing under a different name pen a kooky conspiracy theory that some Russian disinformation campaign planted this story with the Guardian to basically discredit Guardian reporter Luke Harding is his name. I guess Politico's next story is going to be, the new case for the Earth being flat. Glenn Greenwald had something to say about first them improperly putting in the story that Glenn Greenwald got the Snowden cables through WikiLeaks, which is, I don't know, where is Politico getting this information from? A CIA agent. No wonder it's not true. This is Glenn. Why do attacks on the U.S. media calling it fake news resonate so widely? Because of utterly fabricated and reckless articles like this one from Politico by a former CIA officer allowed to write under a pen name. The whole thing is a fraud. That's number one. And Glenn went on a little bit of a tweet storm. Little bit of a tweet storm. The only point of this article is to invent out of whole cloth a wild conspiracy theory that perhaps Russia-controlled operatives caused The Guardian to publish a false story. It's viral Assange Manafort story in order to discredit Luke Harding for his Russia reporting. The whole conspiracy theory is made up with no evidence. Worse, it relies on blatant fabrications such as the one highlighted here. Everyone knows I didn't work with WikiLeaks to report the Snowden story. It's a lie. But U.S. media outlets are willing to lie if the targets are right. And he highlighted the line that was taken out. Glenn Greenwald, who worked with WikiLeaks to distribute the documents stolen by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. And by the way, Politico, if you get something majorly fucking wrong, the correction, here's how journalism works. The correction goes at the top of the page, not the fucking bottom of the page. This is the bottom of the page. They put this. Oh, by the way, a major point was wrong. No, you put it at the top. That's where I come from. New York Times might put their corrections at the bottom, but I think corrections go at the top personally. You're not going to grow. You can't be credible if you're not willing to admit when you're wrong and make sure people see it. Not everybody reads. Most people don't read to the end of the story. Do you read every single story all the way to the bottom, folks? Politico also allowed this ex-CIA agents to falsely claim that the only people raising doubts about the Guardian story are people who are part of Russia's disinformation network. In fact, as Empty Wheel noted, a wide range of people raised doubts about the story. The U.S. media has only itself to blame for the attacks on it. If you're willing to outright lie like this when it advances your narrative, invent wild conspiracy theories, and malign people as Russian agents, you don't deserve the respect that media outlets demand they receive. In response to a highly dubious Guardian story, Politico allowed an ex-CIA officer to use a fake name to publish demonstrable lies and blame Russia for this potentially huge media scandal. Zero self-critique. Why would a profession that acts this way expect to be trusted? And by the way, Glenn doesn't talk this way. I'm just emphasizing. In less than 48 hours, we went from Manafort secretly met with Assange 3 times in the embassy, The Guardian, to maybe the Russians tricked The Guardian into publishing a fake story. Politico CIA writer. Next, why do people not trust news outlets? It's so unfair. Even 2 hours after I read it, speaking as Glenn, I still can't believe that Politico actually published an article by an ex-CIA agent under a fake name saying that if The Guardian's blockbuster Assange Manafort story is false, it's Russia's fault. Parodying the U.S. media at this point is futile. Yesterday's Politico article by an ex-CIA agent using a fake name suggesting Russia tricked The Guardian into publishing its Manafort Assange story relied on the false claim that I worked with WikiLeaks on the Snowden story to claim I was an agent of Russian disinformation. Retracted. And he puts the correction. And Glenn finishes, again, if you publish articles by ex-CIA agents using fake names, allow them to spin inane conspiracy theories with zero evidence, Putin tricked The Guardian into its Manafort Assange story, and include false and defamatory claims, don't be surprised if people don't trust the media. And that's Glenn Greenwald's perfectly correct tweet storm. Like, and you know what's really dangerous about this, folks? You know what's really dangerous about this? One of the ways that Trump became president, besides Democrats being stupid and running Hillary Clinton, is he set up a real sharp contrast and a sharp boogeyman in the corporate media. And the majority of his attacks on the media are not credible. Basically, Donald Trump cries fake media whenever media actually investigates him and calls him out. So Donald Trump's attacks on the fake news media, his idea of why they're fake isn't actually why they're fake. So Donald Trump saying, oh, fake media, fake media, fake media, it's not legitimate. It's just a way for him to, scream boogeyman and rouse up the crowd and to further us in this post-truth society where facts don't matter. Truth is a lie is truth. We're getting to that. That's why it's so important that status quo exists and outlets like it. But what's so dangerous is when the media actually does things like Politico did, it actually makes it seem like Donald Trump is telling the truth. When Politico has a ex-CIA agent right under a pen name trying to make Glenn Greenwald look like he's worked with Russia back in the Edward Snowden days. That's why they put that line in there, to make it seem like Greenwald has been a Russian agent since 2013. Like, you don't even make, this shit isn't even like, you don't even see plot lines like this in espionage movies. The shit Politico pushed in this story. When the media, you know, obviously media is not a perfect system. And corporate media messes up a lot because they're not real journalists. But when you make a mistake, you correct it and you move on. But when you make mistakes like The Guardian, just breathlessly, I hope that I have egg on my face. I would gladly come on and say, you know what, I was wrong and they were right. And here's the evidence. But we have literally 2 days later, zero evidence from The Guardian. Zero evidence from The Guardian that Julian Assange met with Paul Manafort. And as I said yesterday, if they actually did meet in 2016 when Paul Manafort became Donald Trump's campaign chairman, that would be a big deal. You know, I think Russiagate is overblown, but if actual news comes in that is legitimate, I'm not going to be like, hey, let's all cover our eyes. No, that would be a big deal. If they met in the embassy when Manafort joined the campaign, I would say that's a big deal. And I'd want to know why they met, what was discussed, what was promised, what happened. Because that would be in some ways evidence of some type of coordination. But there's no evidence that that story is true. But CNN breathlessly reported it. MSNBC breathlessly reported it. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, all of them just regurgitated it. And now you have Politico. I mean, what's next? What's next? You're going to have Dick Cheney writing stories for Politico under a pen name? Writing that Saddam Hussein actually did have weapons of mass destruction and offering a screenshot of his receipt from Denny's? And by the way, does any media outlet want to report that His Holiness Robert Mueller, who they make it seem like Robert Mueller is holier than the Pope. Robert Mueller was the FBI director in the lead up to the Iraq War. Robert Mueller sat in front of Congress talking about weapons of mass destruction. Robert Mueller detained Muslims after 9/11 under the auspices of, national security. Robert Mueller is no different than Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld. He's not some holy patron saint of democracy. But of course, the media's memory goes as far back as this morning. If Robert Mueller lied in front of Congress and helped push weapons of mass destruction, who gives a fuck, right? I mean, I see these segments about Robert Mueller like he walks on water and he pisses gold. This man, YouTube it. He sat there and he talked about Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. This man basically rounded up Muslims after 9/11. I mean, against their civil rights. But honestly, I think we're really entering, folks, the corporate media twilight zone. We are entering the corporate media twilight zone as far as